Hi everyone! Welcome to DIYs at the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra, and I'm so glad you're here. This first project is using this thrifted heart that I picked up. I gotta tell you, it's really ugly. Now, somebody might say that they like the pattern on the front of it, but it is really not for me. So, what I'm gonna do is simply just take everything apart. I'm taking the sticker off, and then I'm gonna remove the heart from the front and that banner. And then I'm gonna see what I can do with the red. Once I got all the pieces removed, I decided that I was going to sand down the little banner portion, and I flipped the heart around to the back because I tried sanding off some of that red and it is like lacquer or something on there. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to save myself a little bit of time and effort and just use the back of it. And I love the wood look of the back, so it's perfect for my project. I want to create a soft pink paint color. So I'm taking some pink acrylic paint and I'm adding some white to it. I'm going to end up adding a little bit more of a parchment color as well, just to get the softer look that I'm going for. It ended up not being as soft as I wanted it to. It was still a little too pink, but that's okay. I'll make it work. I'm going to give the banner a couple of coats of this pink shade. While I'm doing that, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I've been getting from lots of people over the last year or so. So I thought I would just address it in a video in hopes that you'll see it. Those of you who are asking questions, I know I've answered your questions before as well, but I thought I would just address it at this point. I'm getting tons of questions about the braces and the different types of braces that I wear on my hands and what they are for. I have arthritis in the CMC joint of my thumbs. So where my thumb meets the initial bone for the wrist, that's where the arthritis is. And these braces really help to support the thumb and make sure that it doesn't stretch out too far or go in too far, because those are the pain points for me. I wear these, which are a hard plastic, but I also wear some neoprene ones. I'll have both of them listed down in my description box so you can take a look at what might work best for you. I hope that helps all of you who are suffering from arthritis like me. Now I'd like to thank this sweet subscriber, Charlene, for sending me a huge box of Solo Wood flowers. Solo Wood flowers don't ship to Canada anymore, and she was so sweet to be able to send a whole box of these to me. I got so inspired. I normally don't do Valentine decor, but just taking a look at these flowers, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So that's why I'm doing some brand new Valentine decor DIYs for you all. So thanks again, Charlene, for all the beautiful Solo Wood flowers. I am so inspired. If you've never heard of solo wood flowers before, they are flowers made entirely out of wood and you can dye them. So what I've done here is taken a little bit of my pink paint and about a quarter, maybe about a half a cup of water, and I've mixed it all together really well. And now I've got my solo wood flowers on these bamboo skewers. I can simply just dunk them in, hold them there for a second or two, and then pull them out, tap off all the excess, and then set them aside to dry, and they are going to turn into these beautiful pastel pink florals, and I just love them. I forgot to turn my camera on, but if you can look at the banner there, I did dry brush it a little bit with some off-white chalk paint, which is sort of, it's called parchment and it's from Folk Art, I believe, DIY home decor chalk paint. So I like that color too. It's just a nice little off-white kind of creamy color. I'm going to be using some stamps on this banner, and I started to use this Stays On pigment, but when I tried to use it, it was totally dried out. So don't spend money on expensive ink pads. You do not need to do that. Dollar store ink pads work really well. I'm going to show you the one that I use in just a second. I forgot to turn my camera on again, but I think you get the idea. What I did was use my black ink and I stamped all the way across. I think I stamped it on about 4 times, and I just left the stamp even and then just added where I needed to. Now I'm going to be putting my butterfly onto my acrylic block, and I'm going to be using this black ink. This is called Forever in Time, and it is from a dollar store. I don't know where I got it. I don't believe that the Dollar Tree carries that. I'm going to have some inks listed for you in my description box. They're also available on my Amazon store. So now I'm just going to add this little butterfly to the one side of the banner, and I think this turned out pretty sweet. When you're using ink and stamps, it's really important to clean them well because otherwise you're going to lose some of the details if some of that ink starts to dry inside your stamps. So what I do is I leave my stamp on my block. I use my cleaning mist, and this is a stamp cleaning pad. And I love this. This is back from my scrapbooking days, but it works really well. And then I can just take my little silicone stamp, put it back on its backing, and what I do with my ink, I actually take it and put it into a little plastic bag. Now, you can put it in a Ziploc bag if you want. I've just been too lazy to go get one. So, what I do is just take these little plastic gloves, I slide it in there, and then I just twist the bottom of it really nice and tight. And this has stayed, as I mentioned earlier, for a couple of years now. It just stays so nice and moist. Little bit of sanding here to just rough up the edges and scuff it a little bit just so it doesn't look so brand new. I'm going to distress the wood just a little bit. I'm using a little chippy brush and some of that parchment paint, and I'm just going to dry brush a little bit just to give it a little bit more detail and dimension. Also, just to make it more rustic and weathered and old looking. Using hot glue, I'm going to apply it underneath the banner and just glue it into place. I'm pulling it a little bit further down than it was originally on the other side because I have an idea for the one side to add a little bit more detail. I am so darn excited about being able to use solo wood flowers again. And I love dyeing them. I love the different colors that you can do. You can mix and match them. You can create colors that are specific to your project. And I think the way these turned out with this pretty little soft pink is perfect for Valentine's. So I'm just going to let my video go now. I'm going to put it on a little bit of a higher speed, and I'm going to let you just watch me design my little arrangement here. I don't think I need to explain it. You can probably see what I'm doing. So just sit back, grab your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that little break from me talking, but now we're going to get back to it. I'm taking some of this sort of natural or off color twine. I'm going to make a simple shoestring bow, meaning I'm just going to do a little tie like you would tie your shoelaces. I'm going to make it quite small, but I've got the tails really, really long, and I'm going to glue this right at the bottom of my little floral arrangement. I'm going to use a little dab of hot glue just to secure the twine that's hanging down in place. I want it to have that nice little curl, and I want to control the curl. So that's what the hot glue is going to do for me. Then I'm going to add a sweet little wooden heart underneath, a little bit more greenery, and I'm going to add a few little twigs or sprigs to my twine as well. I really love how this turned out. It's rustic, it's Valentine's, it's sweet. You'll have to let me know what you think.
If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you could hit that red button.
This next project is really easy and also turns out very sweet. I'm using my Cricut Joy for this project. I just have a little piece of black vinyl and I'm just putting it on my sticky mat. I've got my design all figured out and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to be clicking the buttons on my computer and letting the Cricut Joy do its job. I'm going to just flash on the screen here what I'm using. I'm using a heart divider, and these are from Cricut Design Space. This isn't something that I created myself, so unfortunately, I can't share this with you as a free printable because it's not mine. Just type in heart divider and you'll get a whole bunch of different designs that would be perfect for this project. Then I just weed the backing off, add some transfer tape, and then apply it to my project. I got this teeny little canister a couple of years at the Dollar Tree, and they actually were out for Valentine's and they had corks in them. And they had these little Valentine sayings, which actually come off really easily with nail polish remover. So I'm just going to be reusing that. I've had it for a while. It was already a project previously, but now I'm using it again. In the fall, when it's time to prune bushes and that sort of stuff out in the garden, I'm always harvesting branches and sticks. So I've always got a stash inside during the winter. I'm going to use this little stick as my little topiary stem. And now I'm just going to take a little piece of pool noodle and wedge it right down into that little baby canister. And then I'll be able to just push the stick right in and start creating my topiary. A little bit of hot glue will just ensure that my stick doesn't fall over. I'm going to be using some Spanish moss to cover up the pool noodle, and I always like to give it a little bit of a haircut. I'm actually just going to be pushing it down in here. I'm not going to use any glue to hold it down because I'm probably going to reuse this little guy at some point again for yet another project. I use the little pink scoring tool you see there to poke a little bit of a hole in the bottom of this beautiful pink carnation. This is also a solo wood flower that I dyed, and that will just give the stick a little bit of something to grip onto. Of course, I'm using hot glue to put this all together. I'm adding some of this dusty boxwood to the bottom of the carnation. I'm going to do 3 sprigs, 3 or 4 sprigs all the way around just to give it a little bit more fullness. And then once that was complete, I decided to add a smaller solo wood flower, which was also dyed pink, to the top of the carnation just to make it look a little bit higher. This is a 2x4. It's just a piece of scrap wood that I had in my stash. And it's already this brown color because it's meant to be used for outdoors. So it's treated with this type of brown stain. But it's the perfect color for me to use for this because now I don't have to stain it. What I'm doing is taking a drill bit and just drilling in some random holes all over the top of it. And then I'm going to switch to a smaller drill bit because I'm going to be using some wire and I'm also going to be using some florals. So I'm going to need different sizes of holes. Now, originally I thought that I would be able to not use hot glue with these, but I decided that I was going to use hot glue anyway because I wanted to make sure that everything I put in these holes actually stands up straight. I'm going to use this wire to create some little curlicue stems, and I'm also going to wind it a different way at the top so it can hold different things. And I'll show you that in just a second. I'm just going to use this little tool and just wrap the wire around probably about half of it so it has a nice little curl to it. I'm going to do that a couple of times and then I'm going to move on to the different style. So here's the first one. I'm just going to straighten out the bottom because I want these to stand straight up and down. For the second style, I'm going to straighten out my wire and then I'm going to take some needle nose pliers and I'm just going to bend it around the needle nose pliers. So I'm going to grab one end of the wire, bend it around the nose of the wire a few times, and that's going to create a few loops up at the top of it. And that's going to give me the ability to add little different pieces to the wire. So I could put in some pictures, I could put in some little shapes. What I'm going to be doing is adding these little hearts for my project. I have 3 different heart shapes that I used my laser machine to cut out for the wood, and I'm gonna just stain them with this ready-made stain that I have in this little bottle from the Dollar Tree. It's just water and a few different colors. I know I've got some black, some burnt umber, and some gray in there, and I can adjust the stain just by adding a little bit of a different color. But I really like this. It's gonna match perfectly with my 2x4. Since the solo wood flowers don't have any stems, I looked through my stash and I actually found these green paper wrapped stems, and I believe I got them at Dollarama. I don't know if Dollar Tree carries them, but I will have something listed in my Amazon store that would be suitable as well. I always poke a little bit of a hole in at the bottom first, and then I just can wedge that in with a little bit of hot glue and it stays really well. For this project, I'm using the Solar Wood flowers again. I've got some pink carnations, I've got some regular white or off-white carnations, and I'm also using some of these flowers that have the brown on them. And they're actually called skin flowers because they still have a little bit of the brown bark on them. I'm going to be adding these to some greenery stems, and voila, I've got myself a little pick. To assemble everything together, I'm going to start off with the wires that are going to be holding up my hearts. I am going to be needing to use hot glue for all of this, but that's okay. I'm all right with it being just the way it is. I can actually look forward to using this on my table now for Valentine's. And then if I get some little bunny shapes, I can use it for Easter. I can get some little flower shapes and use that for spring. So I'm really excited to be able to use this as a table centerpiece and be able to just switch out my little shapes. Then I just started adding the greenery, and I made the mistake of adding the big fat carnations first because that really pretty much blocks everything else that I'm doing. I think you can kind of get the idea, just taking some sprigs of greenery and flowers and just arranging them in a way that is pleasing to my eye. And I think this is a really unique and fun project that you can create with all sorts of different shapes and sizes of wood. You can make one for every season, you can make one for every holiday. I think it would be absolutely beautiful. As I was building all of this, I did come in at one point, actually a couple of times, and add more holes with my drill just because I needed to have it a little bit more fuller. But I think it would look really pretty with just 5 or 6 sprigs just standing straight up on its own, too. I just decided that I wanted a little bit something fuller for this piece. I really love how it turned out, and I hope you love it too.
This is also one of my favorites on this video. This is a wooden heart that I picked up at Michael's, and I printed off 2 copies of this vintage floral print. I'll have this whole paper available on my website as a free printable. It's 2 pieces that are actually put together on one page. And I'm just going to trace out the heart shape and then use my glue stick to glue it onto the paper. To get off any of the excess paper, I'm just using some 80 grit sandpaper and roughing up the edges. I want this to look a little bit distressed too. I'm going to ink up this stamp and put that right in the center of the heart. I'm just using some ink from the dollar store. I think this was, I can't remember what dollar store, but it's called Forever in Time. And I've tried some other inks and I really like this one. It works very, very well. So once I'm done inking, I'm just going to make sure that I don't get anything around the edges, and then I'll place it gently in the middle of my heart using one of the lines there on the paper to make sure it's straight. I haven't used solo wood flowers in a while, and I really love their vintage look. So I'm going to take some of these mini ones that are white, and I'm going to just start by gluing one down at the very bottom where the paper didn't actually cover the heart. But this is also going to just help me with my design. I'm going to choose whichever flowers I want, and I'm just going to go up the right-hand side just a little wee bit, staggering the flowers, and I think I put in 6 or 7. To add a little bit more of a vintage look and some texture, I'm just taking little bits of Spanish moss and I'm going to just tuck it in underneath the flowers and just push it in using my finger. I think eventually I start using my scissors, and I just wanted to have a little bit of the brown color just to bring out some of the tones in the paper. I like to just take my Spanish moss and just give it a little haircut with my scissors to get it out of the bag, and then I'm just going to use some hot glue on the end of it and push it in. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add some of these little pink wax flowers to add, again, a little bit more dimension. To create the hanger, I'm using this piece of lace from the Dollar Tree. It was just a little bit that I had left over, and I thought it would look really pretty holding this up. The color matches it really well. And just using some hot glue, I'll just glue it onto the back of the heart. Using a little bit more of the lace, I made just a simple shoestring bow with extra long tails. I'm going to add a solo wood flower to the top left corner of the heart, and then I'll glue the bow right underneath it. I went digging around in my stash. I knew I had some pink ribbon somewhere, and I found this beautiful satin one, and it has some cherry blossoms on it. I thought it would be perfect because it's the same color as the paper and just bring out a little bit more of that romantic color. I did a double bow for this one, and I'm going to glue that right on top of the lace bow. I'm going to add a few more of those little wax flowers, a little sprigs of some Spanish moss, and the last embellishment was just a silver key that I thought would look really pretty hanging out from underneath the bows. I hope you like this project. I think it turned out really pretty and soft and romantic and a little vintage. Project number 3 is just using a cardboard cutout of a heart. I freehanded it and I just cut it out of some scrap cardboard. I also cut out a piece of white felt, which I'm just going to glue on top of the cardboard because I'm going to be using some fabric on this and I didn't want any of the brown to show through. I am just using some of Aleene's clear gel tacky glue because I like that it doesn't go through the fabric. With hot glue, especially if the fabrics are a little bit thinner, sometimes the glue will show through or and you'll see like a spot or it'll change a different color. So I just decided to try this glue and I really do like it for fabric. So once I'm done with this, I'm just going to go ahead and stick the felt heart right on top and then trim off any excess. I cut out a few different types of fabric just into some strips. I have this really pretty blush pink that came from a dollar store baby blanket. I've got some of this gray sort of ticking stripe fabric. Then I have a chenille stripe, and I'm going to be using those and just alternating until I get across the heart. I am doing it in a diagonal fashion because I just thought that would give it a little bit more character. So I'm going to continue just placing my pieces where I need them to be, and then I'll just use the tacky glue to glue them right down onto the felt piece. So now that I have all of the pieces glued down, I'm going to flip it over and just give it a little bit of extra pressure to make sure that that glue absorbs right into the fabric. Now I'm going to break out my hot glue gun and just fold over all of these little excess pieces so they cover up the side part of the heart. I'm not really too concerned about that because I will be adding a little bit of a texture to that as well, but just to make sure that everything stays in place. So just be careful when you're using hot glue with your fabric because sometimes it can be really hot coming through your fingers. I tend to use the low heat setting on my little glue gun here, and it works really well. I've never burned my fingers in a really long time. To cover up the cardboard and all of the mess from the other pieces, I'm just going to cut out another little piece of that baby blanket and trace around my heart. And then I'll just hot glue that to the back, making sure that it isn't too big. I don't want to be able to see that extra piece of fabric on the back. And one thing I want to mention is if you work with fabric, you want to have a good pair of fabric scissors. Not just a regular pair of scissors that you can get at any store. You want fabric scissors. They make such a difference in cutting smooth, clean lines, and they are super sharp, and you want to make sure that you never use them for anything else but fabric. Even if you're cutting some ribbon, if it has fabric, but it's got some wires in it, do not use your fabric scissors. Make sure you save them just for fabric. Here's what the heart looks like so far. I really love how it turned out. Next, I'm going to take some of this cotton rope and I'm going to just cut a length of it and double it up because what I want to do is twist it and create sort of a coiled rope effect. So that will be the border around the heart, which will then cover up any of the cardboard that is still visible. I started at the top point of the heart and I'm just going to do small sections and glue the rope down. If it comes unraveled a little bit, I'll just take my time and twist it up a little bit more so I have the same amount of twist all the way around. I love using spindles in decor, so I decided to mount this heart onto a spindle. This one already had some paint on it from a previous project. I'm going to go ahead and add a nail to it. I previously poked the nail into the bottom of the heart so I would be able to have a pre-drilled, say, hole. And then I used the nail head as the base inside the hole of the spindle. Then I just added a whole bunch of hot glue and made sure to hold it in place until it dried securely. To cover up the wood of the top of the spindle that was still showing, I took some of the extra fabric, cut them in thinner strips, and then tied a single knot right in the middle. I'm going to use that knot to glue right down onto the top of the spindle, and this will give me sort of a rustic, shabby chic kind of bow all the way around the heart. And I think this turned out really pretty. I wasn't sure it was going to, but then once it was done, I fell in love. I hope you like this project too. This is one of the little signs that you can find at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to pop out the backing and then remove the welcome letters because I'm not going to need any of that. I'm using this sort of off-white chenille fabric. It's really soft and cozy. And I also cut out another piece of white felt. And now I'm just taking some of this pillow stuffing. I'm just going to tear it apart and make it a little fluffy. And I'll just set it right on top of the felt. I'm not going to glue it down or anything because it's not necessary. Then I'm going to take the piece of chenille and I'm going to use some hot glue and glue that all the way around onto the felt. So I have a little square or rectangle that has a little bit of a puffy center. I'm going to make sure that I get right to the edge of the felt with this fabric, and then that will be the same size as what I need to fit back inside the frame. Next, I'm going to just hot glue the fabric right onto the board. I don't need a whole lot of glue for this because once I pop the frame back on, that'll help to hold it in place. Now, because there was a little extra fabric, the cardboard didn't sit flush and wouldn't snap back inside, so I just pushed it in as best I could and then added a bead of hot glue all the way around the sides to make sure that it stayed in place. When I'm out thrifting, I am always on the lookout for different and unique things that you can use for projects. And I know that you can find some of these Scrabble pieces at different craft stores, and I think Michael's carries them too. But I found this at the thrift store for $3 and it was the whole game. So now I'm just trying to decide where I want to put these little letters, and I decided to glue them a little off center right on the bottom ledge of the frame. I took some pieces of ribbon, some twine, some rope, and created a messy bow stack. I'll use one of the pieces of sort of white twine, it's kind of a beige color, to tie off the knot right in the center. I'll use a bead of hot glue just to place it in the corner and put it right onto the fabric instead of the frame. I thought it would be a little different just having the bow on the inside of the frame instead of right on it. The last thing I did for this was just spread out some of the ribbons, and if I needed to glue them in place because this is going to be standing up, I didn't want those top ones to fall down, so I did use some hot glue to glue them onto the frame. I added a little shoestring bow just in some brown twine, and this project is done. It's another cutie, and I hope you really enjoyed all of these projects today.
I hope you enjoyed my projects today. I think they all turned out very soft and sweet and pink, which is something that I normally don't have in my home. But I think for Valentine's, it makes sense. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget the notification bell and the like button because that gets me noticed more on YouTube and helps my channel grow. Thank you so much for watching.